Here's the thing about Nintendo. As soon as you think that you know exactly what they're doing, they kind of always pull the rabbit out of the hat and kind of surprise you with something that you didn't expect to see coming. And I think that's what Mr. Shuntaro Furukawa is foreshadowing here with the Nintendo Switch 2, because he's talked about the impact of the original reveal trailer, which is doing incredibly good view-wise, 20 million views plus at this point. And he's talked about how he wants to gauge things as they actually go for that April 2nd Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. And that Nintendo Switch 2 Direct actually has a time. For those who missed it, it's going to be April 2nd at 6 a.m. PT, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. And your boy OJ will be up bright and early, making sure that I cover the show from everything, because this could be the biggest Nintendo Direct ever in the history of them. So we will be covering this. But let's talk about what Mr. Shuntaro Furukawa had to say. And I think that there's going to be some massive surprises and news dropping, obviously, that we didn't know or we didn't see coming on April 2nd. Because here's what Mr. Shuntaro Furukawa about waiting for the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct to truly judge consumer reactions. Now, here's the thing, guys. We got that big reveal finally back in January. And while there were some people saying, oh, there wasn't enough surprises or things like that, overall, people are like, cool, it's the Switch, but it's a more powerful one. It's going to have Mario Kart. It's bigger. Great. I like it. I want more. I like my Switch. Give me a Nintendo Switch 2. But there's a lot of people kind of dismissing, like, oh, well, they didn't do anything new, or they didn't do anything else, or there's no gimmicks or anything like that. But Nintendo didn't reveal more or everything about the system. Actually, they didn't really talk about any of the features at this point. Now, during a recent fiscal Q&A, Nintendo was asked about the reaction to the Switch 2 reveal, and Nintendo President Shuntaro Furukawa did note that the reaction was positive, but said that Nintendo is waiting. So here's his full words. And remember, guys, this is Google Translate, so we will get the official translation notes in just a bit, but we're going over it just as a general gist of what he's saying. Quote, "We are grateful that many people around the world have seen the trailer, but since we have only shown the name and shape of the hardware, we believe that we will have to wait until detailed information is released on April 2nd to get a true sense of the reaction. At this point in time, many people are interested, so we will first focus on releasing that information and then have many people actually get their hands on the hardware to convey its appeal." So he's talking about the Nintendo Switch 2 experience overall. But remember what he says right there, on April 2nd to get a true sense. So there's definitely more to this hardware. He's saying, look, there wasn't really much that we shown off, and that was by design. April 2nd is when we're really going to let you know what's going on with this. So I definitely think that there are massive and huge surprises set for us when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2. And I think that there will be some features that was in the patents, or that what we talked about before when it comes to some of the sensing technology. I do think that HD Rumble 2 is going to be a thing. You have bigger Joy-Cons, you have more area for tech to put in them. So I do feel that the C button, that will be announced and talked about. They kind of blurted out or censored their own button because they didn't want to let people know or give a hint to what it was, but there is that C button on there that's going to be able to link to different things. Some people are guessing that it's going to be a community feature. It's going to be something to where you can link up with other people for easy online play or voice chat, or even a Miiverse 2.0 or their own community, potentially through rumors and all that, saying that's what Nintendo might do. So I do think that there is way more that meets the eye at this point, and people are going to be pleasantly surprised with some of the stuff that Nintendo has up their sleeves when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. But speaking of what they have up their sleeves, let's talk about something else that people are very interested in, and that's the affordability. They're thinking about that as well. But you know who else is thinking about affordability? PlayerEssence. I'm thinking about affordability, and that's why I'm charging you guys exactly $0 to subscribe to the PlayerEssence YouTube channel. A lot of you guys are watching and not subscribed. That's okay. It's free. Go ahead and subscribe and hit that like button while you're at it. Also, click that notification bell so you can get my vids as soon as they drop, because we're going to be going in when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2 and locking into everything that you guys want to hear about, giving you the best breakdowns. Now, let's talk about this, because the breakdown of the price is a very important factor overall, and Nintendo is thinking about that. Once again, we got Shuntaro Furukawa. We've got a Google translated interview that's happening right here when it comes to his statement. So we're going to go over what he had to say about the price of the Switch 2 and what's going to be happening with the Nintendo Switch 1 cost as well. Quote, We are aware that inflation is currently rising and that the exchange rate environment has changed significantly since the launch of the Nintendo Switch in 2017. We also need to consider the affordable prices that customers expect from Nintendo products. When considering the price of our products, we believe that it is necessary to consider these factors from multiple angles. At this time, we cannot announce the specific price of the Nintendo Switch 2, but we are considering it taking into account various points. Now, this is one of the reasons why I didn't talk about some of the other leaked stuff that certain people were saying with the price. There were some guys that were saying, oh, it's going to be $400 something. They don't know the price. Nintendo, I don't think, has fully locked in what their price is going to be. So you would only know if you are in those board meetings with Shuntaro Furukawa in Japan. And there is no way anybody knows anything when it comes to that locked in 100% price at this point. But these words that Mr. Furukawa has to say here gives me a couple different things or different ways that he's going to go. One, it is obviously not going to be a $500 system. Some people were saying tariffs and inflation, that's going to cause a $500 system. No, that is going to cause a DOA almost. Like, yes, some people, the hardcore, will rush out there and buy it for $500, but most people are not going to do that. And once again, he says we need to take into consideration all different angles and the affordability that Nintendo is known for. So if you look at the Nintendo Switch 1, that launched at $300. And $300 at that time, some people were saying that it was too much, but most people felt it was just right for the price. It was the same price as the Wii U and actually $50 than what the Wii U launched with its best model. So essentially you got it for $299 and you can get a game, you can get Breath of the Wild, and that was about $370, $380 depending on tax and all that. So that was pretty good for most people. Set aside some money, you can pick it up. I do feel that with the Nintendo Switch 1, where Mr. Furukawa says that they're not really going to drop the price on Nintendo Switch 1 right now at this point, I think that they're going to have a tiered program just like this. Nintendo Switch Lite, that's $200. Nintendo Switch V2, that's $300. Nintendo Switch OLED, that's $350. Nintendo Switch 2, that is $400. You have the $50 plus or so increments going up from the Nintendo Switch V2 to the OLED to the Nintendo Switch 2. It makes it easy, it makes it identifiable, and you know exactly where the upgrade path is. From the Nintendo Switch Lite all the way up to the Nintendo Switch 2. And since you're labeling it 2, it's clearly that this is the superior or better product. $399.99 when it comes down to it, because that looks so much better than $449.99, or obviously $499.99. So considering that Mr. Furukawa's taken into consideration the affordability of past systems, I don't think it's really going to play in their favor if they have $100 more than Switch OLED, or even worse, $150 more than the Nintendo Switch OLED. I think a $50 jump from the Switch OLED is appropriate here at this point. Now, we obviously don't have all of the factors when it comes to features, and we don't have the full tech specs. Yes, there's been some leaks and stuff like that, but there's still information that there is no way anybody knows in terms of what Nintendo is doing until we get that full system and that teardown, and we start playing the games and start testing and start seeing exactly how Nintendo's version of DLSS and all of that is. So there's no way to know right now at this point. It does seem like Nintendo's going to provide some pretty good value when it comes to overall horsepower and what it can do, combined with the pure exclusives that it's going to have. That's really going to help push the system. Big games are going to be coming out. I think that Nintendo, with the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, where they talked about that, they really want to show off what they've been working on. All of Nintendo's biggest teams, from the big 3D Mario team to the Monolith Soft team, Zelda team, they're all working on huge games for the Nintendo Switch 2, and we're going to see some of those at this big April 2nd Nintendo Direct. So I think there are I would say, fusion of combined ideas between obviously having the price being affordable or right around probably $399, and then also having the big software to help drive those system sales. People have to feel that it's worth it for the upgrade, and I do think that after 8 years now at this point, many people are excited and looking forward to an upgrade with the Nintendo Switch. So we'll see exactly how it all plays out. But this is good news when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2 price, which we have been covering quite a bit here on the channel. Now let's talk a little bit more about some other stuff when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 1, because Nintendo is still planning to support the Nintendo Switch 1 even after the Nintendo Switch 2 comes out if there is demand. So here's what Nintendo had to say about this, saying that he doesn't believe that the Nintendo Switch 2 will have a significant impact on the current sales of the Nintendo Switch, saying that, quote, "We don't think the impact of refraining from purchasing is that great," said Furukawa via the Sankei. "Sales of the original Switch will continue as long as there is demand." So there you go at this point. Now, obviously, Nintendo's been lowering their forecast because they haven't been hitting their sales targets overall. I think they've been a little bit bullish on what they were going to actually sell based off of what software that was coming out. If they had maybe a couple other big games or like a big Mario or something like that maybe coming, I think that they've been able to hit their sales targets, but they didn't have anything like that overall. They had a lot of ports, remasters, kind of remakes type of stuff. They had a few big games. Obviously, maybe they were banking a little bit more on Jamboree, pushing some more hardware sales. But at the end of the day, Furukawa said it best that, hey, look, it's pretty good for its 8th year overall. Like, yeah, we didn't hit our sales targets, but whatever. Essentially, he didn't say that, but he essentially said, whatever, the next system's coming. We're having a direct in April. We obviously have big games like Metroid Prime 4, in addition to Pokemon Legends ZA. Those are still confirmed for Switch 1. So people that want a Switch 1, maybe they're not ready to upgrade to Switch 2, or maybe they're buying a console for someone else or a kid or whatever the case is, that will still continue to sell. We'll still have people that want to buy that. Switch is a very popular system, and yeah, more people will be like, you know what, I don't need a Switch 2, I don't need to spend the extra, I can just buy a Switch V1, or I can just buy a Switch OLED for now, and maybe I'll get it down the line. Not everyone's going to rush out and buy a Switch 2. So I can understand what he's saying, obviously, there. And if you look at it, some of the best systems of all time, especially when you get into the territory of like the PlayStation 2, the Nintendo DS, those sold millions upon millions after. Now, the PlayStation 2 was a completely different thing because Sony did all sorts of stuff to sell that system, from crazy cheap, dirt cheap bundles to weird stuff going down in South America and all that. What they did with FIFA and the bundles there, they're essentially just almost giving away that system at times because it was so cheap, and that's how they were able to pack on a ton of sales. After the PlayStation 3 already came out, it still went on to sell millions more afterwards. Now, I'm not sure if the Nintendo Switch is going to do that. I think that the Nintendo Switch 2 will take over, but I do feel that there is going to be some cross-gen. It looks like Furukawa is looking to have a little bit of cross-gen action there because there is a huge base of people still playing on the Nintendo Switch 1, and I've stated that before in previous videos that it's kind of too big of a base to just let completely go. So you supply it with NSO games, you supply it with other type of games, but it does look like Nintendo is going to continue on there, which makes a lot of sense to me. And speaking on what Mr. Furukawa had to say when it comes to the Switch sales, because I did say that, yeah, they missed their sales target, but he was kind of like, hey, look, it is what it is. So here's what he had to say in the investors meeting. They did sell over 150 million Nintendo Switch systems at this point. They're only the 3rd system ever to do that. But Furukawa was asked about, hey, the slumping sales overall, and he said that Switch sales are solid given its age, but they did not achieve their goal. While we think sales of hardware and software are solid for the 8th year, we did not achieve our plan, said Furukawa via the Video Games Chronicle. The company did lower the forecast for its fiscal year ending March 31st, 2025, this time by 1.5 million units to 11 million units overall. If Nintendo was able to hit their forecast, that would mean another 1.46 million Switch units shipped for the rest of the fiscal year, for the lifetime shipment total of 152.32 million units. So if they're at 152 million by the end of March, when it comes down to that, they're essentially going to be right there by the Nintendo DS. They're going to pass up the Nintendo DS within the next reporting or anything like that. That's going to happen. But then obviously they would be about 7 point something million away from the PlayStation 2. Now, there was something about people saying, do they actually want to beat out the PlayStation 2 or not? And I know Kit and Krista talked about that on their show, and I don't think Nintendo really cares about that after hearing what they had to say. And I've never really thought Nintendo truly cares about beating out the PlayStation 2. They're really more worried about what they've got to do, because they didn't really care when the Nintendo DS clearly could have beat out the PS2 if they could have just kept rocking with that for longer. They could have absolutely beat out the PS2 with more sales and deals and stuff, and they just said, oh, we're going on to Nintendo 3DS and just let things fizzle out afterwards and stop making games. So I do feel that it's very possible that the Nintendo Switch, depending on what Furukawa wants to do here, if there is demand, that they will continue putting out some stuff. And yes, they will pass up the Nintendo DS and potentially pass up the PS2, especially if we get price cuts. There's been no price cuts at all for the Nintendo Switch 1. And if there's a price cut plus some bundles, I do think that, yes, eventually it will pass up the PlayStation 2 at 160 million units plus. So we'll see with that. But What do you guys think overall when it comes to all the different Nintendo Switch 2 and 1 information that we had for you? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch RPG videos and more right here on screen. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.